everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily Show YouTube channel. The best way to support the show on this YouTube channel is to subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and or share it with a friend. I hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and whichever way you choose to support the show, I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I hope that today's message and episode brings some bit of positive change to your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Evolve with Emily podcast. I am your host, Emily Hayden, and you are joining me for the first solo podcast of 2022. Happy New Year, everybody. I hope that you all had a safe and happy New Year. I wanted to take some time in this episode to kind of recap a little bit of 2021 and share some of my main takeaways and lessons that I have learned in hopes to kind of help guide you along. If you experience those things, maybe it'll help you in some way. And then as well, kind of give you my tips for 2022 and in setting some realistic goals, because I know that we're all in goal setting mode. It's January. We're motivated. We're at the, height of our motivation. So hopefully I can give you some strategies and things that you can implement all year long. I kind of look at the year as a month by month basis, and every first of the month is kind of like the new year for me. And operating in that mode has allowed me to accomplish way more and stay way more focused on all the things that really matter most to me. So we'll get into that by the end of the episode. But I first want to kind of talk a little bit about 2021. So do you guys know that song that everyone is creating those cute reels to? It's on Instagram. I'm going to play it so that you don't have to hear my voice. That one. And they're, putting all the memories to 2021. And I'm watching these on Instagram and I'm like, 2021 was not the happiest year of my life. I don't know if there's anyone else out there that feels that way, but I'm like, good for them. I'm so happy for them. I want happiness for everybody, but it just was like so comical for me to see it over and over again. And I'm like getting out of 2021, like, we made it. We're finally out of here. I kind of felt like, oh man, what's that show, Prison Break, where every episode he's like, we're never going to get out of here. That's how I felt in 2021. Many times. No, it wasn't all bad. There was so many incredible moments. And that's the thing, is I feel like 2021 for me was just a ton of lessons learned. And it was a lot of uprooting things in my life that didn't belong. It was a lot of major changes. And so it presented a ton of challenges. And at the same time, it's like my life was really being blessed in so many ways. So I do want to say that, but it wasn't one of those years where I look back and I'm like, yeah, man, that thing, we just, we were in the flow. We were successful all the time. No, it wasn't one of those years. It was just a very hard personal year for me for many reasons. And, I think the first thing, I started the year out really great, really motivated. I was in prep. I was moving from California to Texas. I got to Texas, and 2 days after landing, before I even got into the house that I live in now, I got a call for an incredible opportunity for a job back in California. And I was like, God, what are you doing here? This makes no sense, right? And in that season, I am quarantined to a hotel room. I am working out in my hotel room with like dumbbells that the movie set brought me. I got to work on a movie set and it was really dope. It was a Netflix movie. So when it comes out, I'll let you guys know. I was a trainer to the actress that was like the main actress. So that was a really incredible opportunity. The team there, by the way, was amazing. So like, it's interesting. It's like the opportunities and the things that I was gifted were incredible. But I was quarantined from everyone that I knew, living in a tiny little hotel room with me and Vinny. And at the same time, as I was experiencing really difficult health issues. And I had the great idea that while I was there, that I would go into therapy and face some of the deepest, darkest traumas that I've ever had in my life. So isolated from everyone that I know, insane hormone health issues, and facing trauma in my life that I've never professionally faced, presented for a very difficult time personally. So it's like, and I won't lie, the Netflix job provided very well for me. It was a very well-paying job. And that is part of why I was able to, get the house that I did and do everything I did, right? Like it really was so substantial and it was a total God thing. So like God gets all the credit for that. I literally did not even apply for this job. God was like, silver platter, here, you need this while you're going to go through this that I'm not going to tell you about yet. So while I was going through some of the most most difficult things personally, I guess like professionally, I was, doing really well and having these incredible connections. And truthfully, some of those memories I had and the people I got to work with who I was on the stunt team technically, and they do all the stunts for all of the major, like films out there, all of the action hero films, Marvel, DC, I don't know, all those things. And it was really incredible to be around them, to learn from them. And I did my best to, before I got into work, I would sit there, and mind you, this is during the height of the COVID, and you guys know exactly how I feel on all of that stuff. And at this job, I had to like double and triple mask and visor and gloves and temperature check and test every other day. So it's like all this stress and all these things I'm not with and don't enjoy. But I knew that that's where God had me. So I was willing to suck it up and put myself through all of that BS and not breathing while I'm training people. And it was like that part of it was not enjoyable at all. So, again, it was one of those like super bittersweet things. Cause I'm like, I know God has me here. I know I have purpose here. I really enjoyed what I did, really enjoyed the people that I worked with. But it wasn't like the funnest thing, if I'm being totally honest, with all that stuff involved. And what happened during that time was I realized that God brought me through into this like desert season, right? The season where I'm cut off from everything and everyone that I love. I'm, facing these things that have just been so far in the background that I thought mentally I had made peace with, but I didn't realize that this trauma was still manifesting like in my mind and my body and my heart. And because of that, when you're, walking throughout life in that way, you absolutely operate from that. And so getting rid of that operating system and healing from that, like truly healing, it refreshed me into like this new version of myself. And so coming out of that, I was there until I believe it was April is when I got to Texas. And it was hard because they kept extending my stay. They kept being like, yeah, you're going home Friday. Just kidding. We want to sign you for another month. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyways, it was amazing. I'm so thankful for it. Just personally, I was dealing with all the things at the same time: health, trauma, therapy, all this stuff, right? I, at that time, through a lot of my healing, I set a lot of really good and healthy boundaries in my life with people and toxicity and things like that. And I was just so proud of myself for really being able to do that. So I really learned the importance of boundary setting. I learned the importance of communicating, exactly what it is that I need that's best for myself. I come from a past of putting other people's, desires and needs above my own, meaning like if I felt like it might make them feel bad, maybe I wouldn't do it, kind of thing. And I just really stepped into my own self and realizing that no, this is the most self-honoring and self-respectful thing that I could do. So I was really proud of myself for doing that. Some of the therapy that I did was called, I believe it's EMDR. Hopefully those initials are right, the acronym's right. But I really highly recommend that. I'll just say that. It was really incredible. I had to pull out of my prep, obviously, with the hormone issues. And so what I realized through that first, I would say 6 months of the last year, was that health is like the number one most important thing. If you do not have health in your body and in your mind and your heart, you are not going to be able to really live out your purpose and what you're being called to do. And there's a stage and there's a process for everything. So like during that time, it was hard for me as this high achiever, wanting to perform, wanting to execute. I wasn't able to execute on the things that I wanted to because I had to switch my attention and focus to handle and deal with some of the most difficult things in life. And so for me, I think that the main lesson that I want to share with you guys is to not just go after these goals that you're setting that are like these, long-term goals, but actually look inwardly at yourself and say, can this version of me operate in the end goal vision that I see for myself? And the truth is, if you have things that you are not dealing with, mind, body, heart, soul, health, whatever it is, you are not the version of you that is able to carry the responsibility and the weight and even the good things that come with the vision that you see for yourself. So I'd really encourage you guys, as you listen to this, there's some of you that are listening and you're like, oh, wow, I've never dealt with some things that have happened in my life. Or, wow, I know that my, hormones feel off or my health doesn't feel great. stop what you're doing right now and switch your focus and focus on these things. Take the time that you need to get healthy mentally, physically, spiritually. Do not discredit these things, because when you are like your healthiest version of yourself in all of those aspects, what you will do and accomplish and create and imagine and think of and how you will operate will be a world of a difference than how you were before. So I know that the world tells you to focus on the next business deal and making money and, you know, these big goals and achieving these things for yourself. But truthfully, even if you never achieved any of those things within the next 6 months or next year, but what you did do was focus on getting yourself whole from the inside out, mind, body, soul, spirit, all of the above, you would be able to accomplish far more doing way less when you did reach that version of yourself. So I just really want to encourage you guys, don't discredit it. Take time to do that. I, moved to Texas. Most of my days here, I started with tears in my eyes, just full of gratitude, just being like, I cannot believe that this is my life, and it's cool. This morning I was journaling, and that was actually one of the first things that I said too. I was just like, this is so dope that this gets to be my life. Like, I am so thankful for that. And because I was in such a great spot, I was able to, we together almost tripled in our listeners with the podcast, which is really incredible. I had a goal of hitting 1 million downloads, so I figured I'd update you guys with that. I didn't get the numbers before this podcast. I should have done that. But the last time that I checked, it was like 950,000. So we almost hit 1 million show downloads, which is really awesome and such a huge milestone. And thank you guys so much. And I will say, if I didn't set that goal of getting 1 million downloads, I would not have gotten to where I'm at now. So when you look at it, yeah, I did not reach my goal of 1 million downloads, but that goal was really high and really, some would say unrealistic. And I guess it was, because I didn't hit it, right? But I would much rather like shoot for the stars and end, a little bit lower than never even shoot for the stars. Because had I not done that, guarantee you I would not be anywhere to where I'm at now. So I just want to encourage you guys to set those big goals. When you're setting those goals for yourself, don't just set a goal that you are on target to hit. Like, had I set a goal that I was on target to hit, it probably would have been like 800,000, but because I set such a crazy goal, it inspired action inside of me that was like ferocious on a daily basis. I had to always be on top of my game, always be challenged, and always really put out the best possible content that I could. So again, I just want to encourage you guys, set those big goals. That way, every single day you can reverse engineer it to know, okay, what do I have to do today in order to hit that goal? And maybe for today, I have to identify who it is that I want to interview within the next month. And then the next step is, okay, now I have to reach out to those people, right? But people think podcasts, they think, okay, record and edit and film. No, there's so much like backtracking that you have to do with that too. So I mentioned that not because you guys are podcasters and need to know, but because when you set your goals, try to think of your goals in the same way. What are those small little steps that you can take today that will set you up for that overall goal? My coaching business evolved and leveled up. I had the opportunity to travel and be introduced to new opportunities, new people, which are now new friendships. I honestly just had such an incredible middle half of the year. I feel like that was definitely like my prime was, getting into this house, setting those new goals. I hired an assistant, Jess. She's incredible. She actually edits the podcast. She's the podcast producer now. So welcome, Jess. She's been incredible to have this past year. I also, in the last year, I trusted my own intuition and I took a chance on love, and I fought really freaking hard when I saw it going downhill, and I learned a lot in therapy. I've never learned so much in therapy sessions like that. And, it was a really difficult thing to end the year in that way, because, things went very south after the breakup. And that was very difficult for me to see something that I'd poured so much into, to go that way. But what I realized in that is that there's a lot of lessons to be learned within that throughout the whole last year. And I definitely never need to learn any of those lessons again. Like, it's kind of like, this is the way I describe it to my friends. I'm like, had it ended any better, it would have been like, okay, the stove is on at a level 2 and you put your hand on it and you're like, oh, that's pretty hot, but I don't know, you may try the stove again or something, but when the stove is at a 10 of 10 heat level and you touch it and it sears your hand, you're like, I will never touch that stove again in my life. So I really clearly learned all the lessons that I need to learn. And here's what I have to say with that. A few things that I have learned with that is that, one, I needed to make every decision that I made for myself, because I wouldn't have learned the way that I've learned now had I just trusted what everybody else told me. I really needed to hear what everybody else said, and I needed to make decisions for myself. I also extend love, grace, and compassion and forgiveness to myself, because I don't look at myself like, oh, I made a wrong decision. I actually made the best decision that I could. Nothing that I did was unintentional. It was always very intentional. I was seeking to follow God, but I was just doing the best that I could in that moment. And now I've learned differently. And now, looking back with perspective, I can absolutely see things differently. And I think, sometimes, guys, we have to experience life. We have to go out there and be willing to fail in order to really learn. And now it's not a failure. To me, it's not even a failure at all. It's just a lesson learned. And now when I get into a situation that could be similar, I will know exactly how to act, think, behave, decisions to make. I will not hesitate, because I know, and I wouldn't have that knowing without having that experience. Another thing that was really important that I learned, which I did a podcast on, is the Monday message about self-sufficiency. Definitely check it out. Is I really learned how to rely on the beautiful community that I have created when things got really hard. And you guys know this podcast, Evolve with Emily, is all about evolving. It's all about, that personal growth, reaching that next best version of yourself. And that doesn't always look like reaching goals or achievements. Sometimes it looks like walking through a really difficult and hard season and recognizing that you're handling that hard season completely different than you've handled it in the past. And for me, the way that I did it this time was not by doing it on my own, not by hiding and suffering alone. I allowed myself to be vulnerable with a few women that I really love and trust and respect, and who share faith with me and core values with me. I let myself be vulnerable with them, and we opened up, and we didn't discuss the problem. We didn't discuss what was going on or the injustice and lies and all these things, right? We didn't discuss any of that. We actually just put our focus on God and asked God, like, what do you want to speak to us about today? And we prayed over each other. We encouraged each other. And it was such a beautiful experience to be able to have that with people that I love. And it's interesting because I haven't utilized that before. It's kind of like that tool was always on my toolkit in my toolkit. And I never picked up that tool to use it. And this time I really used it, and I got the depth and just the wonderful things that came out of that. And what I realized is you can walk through hardship one of two ways. You can walk through hardship and you can make it worse by choosing all of the self-sabotaging behaviors, even the behaviors that feel justified. Or you can choose to walk through that hardship in a way that is pretty against everything that you're feeling, right? Your feelings are telling you to talk about it and to set the record straight and, to do all these things. And in reality, if you look at the world's way, which tells you to talk about it and talk about drama and feed into these things, or if you look at it in the spiritual sense says switch your gaze, switch your focus from your problem, from your anxiety, from your fear, from all these things to God, because in God and in relationship with Him, you find peace. And I was really able to do that and to walk through this difficult thing and ending the year in such a difficult way. I was able to really do that. And what I've experienced is peace. Guys, I woke up this morning with peace, so much peace and so much excitement to live my life, and so focused and clear on my directions and my goals and the steps that I need to take. And I would not be in this position so quickly had I not been pouring into my relationship with God and saturating myself in the things of Him over the last couple of weeks. And I just had to share it because I hope to, to tell you guys about it. I guess I never feel like I had anyone explain it in the way that I hope I'm explaining it for you guys. I hope you're able to understand what I'm saying and really grasp it, because now that I've experienced it for myself, I'm like, guys, this is the way. This is the way to walk through this hardship. And it doesn't change the hardship. It doesn't magically make it go away. It's still there. The chaos, the storm, whatever it is still there. but you have this like internal peace and this internal guide that tells you, even when it doesn't feel good, even when you don't feel the peace quite yet, even when you still wake up with anxiety, that you're choosing the right thing. And that's the thing for me. If I know that I'm doing the right thing, I can get through the hardest of moments. And when I feel like I can't, I call a friend, or I say a prayer, or I allow somebody to show up for me in the way that I need. And getting through those moments has got me to a place where now I feel that peace. Now I have that knowing that that was the right path to take, even though it didn't feel good, even though it doesn't feel good to stay silent. And, it's difficult. It's difficult to practice the self-control and allowing God to sort things out versus trying to take everything into your own hands and trying to have control of the situation and those kinds of things. So I'm really thankful that I did that. And I hope me speaking on it can just encourage you guys to maybe do the same for yourself. 2022. I am not even going to pretend to know what's going to happen this year. That would be so hilarious. I just look back on 2021 and 2020 and the last couple of years. And I'm like, I never would have planned any of those things for my life. Even last year at this time, the end of the month is when I got that call for that job. I would have never in a million years been able to plan for that. It was just such a surprise, such a thing I didn't see coming. So what I am doing this year is making sure that I don't let go of God's hand, even for a second, even for things and opportunities and people that seem on the surface level very good. I don't want anything that is good. I only want the God thing. The God thing is so much more fulfilling and rewarding and peaceful and joyful and all of the things, all the fruits of the Spirit, right? That's what I want. And so in that, I am going to protect that relationship and that closeness with him with everything that I have. You guys know at the end of the year, I shared on the podcast how I was kind of in the season of seeking God. I never stopped seeking God, but my connection to him just he felt so far. And I know the truth. I know that he's not far, but that's how it felt. And now looking back with perspective, I can see clearly that there were things in my life that were blocking that connection. And so I think what I would say with that in my kind of my operating system moving forward is if I reach another time in my life where I feel that again, I'm really going to qualify what circumstances, what situations, what business opportunities, what things in my life bring me into closer relationship with God and Jesus, and what things draw me away, or the one that I think is the hardest to spot, which things just seem like status quo, right? It's really easy to spot when something is really intentionally dragging you away from closeness and relationship with God and faith. It's harder to spot sometimes when they're not really dragging you away, but they're definitely not feeding your faith. And so I think for me, a new qualifier of things and people that are in my life at a certain capacity absolutely are feeding my faith and encouraging my faith and growing me in that way. Not just okay that I talk about my faith or putting up with it kind of thing, but people that truly feed me in that way. And that is definitely going to be something that is just the number one priority in my life. So I'm going to protect that at all costs. Now, moving into 2022, I feel so rejuvenated. I feel so refreshed and so excited to get to work. And the reason that I feel that way is because the beginning of December, I decided, I was already going through a breakup at that point, and I decided that I really needed to take a step back. And so the first few weeks of December, I worked my butt off and I did all the podcast, all the work, everything for the whole month, up front. And I knew that before I moved into 2022, I knew that I needed rest. I needed to sit still. I needed to just seek God and seek clarity for my life. I did not know that I would be experiencing some traumatic shit at the end of the year. So it's funny how that worked out because I was able to take the time off that I needed to recover. But it's, and again, I feel like that's God, just putting that idea in my head. Hey, you're gonna need some rest. You don't really know why, but go ahead and do all the work ahead of time. And I'm so thankful for that. But I mentioned that because I would not feel refreshed and replenished right now today had I not taken the time to take a step back, so to speak, and just breathe and connect to nature and connect to God and feed my spirit and just be still. We're in this fast-paced society that tells you to work 365, work, hustle, kill, team, no sleep. And how can you be clear in where you're going? How can you have that, knowing and that purpose and that fulfillment when you are drained all the time and never taking time to rest and to replug and to recharge? So doing that for me allows me to show up today on the first Monday of the year. Oh my gosh. Favorite day for like an overachiever. First Monday of the year. Yes. Anyways, it allows me to show up the way that I'm showing up now. So realistically and practically, I wanted to share some tips for setting some goals. And I was talking to a friend about this actually last night. And we were talking about how we both desire so many things in life when it comes to like hobbies and education and passion, things aside from work, right? Like, just so many different things, whether it's painting or music or language or new skill, jujitsu, whatever it is. And it's like, how do you get to do all these things? And, my number one tip for that is to look at every single month of the year as the new year, right? So look at each month just one at a time. On my calendar downstairs, I have it on my fridge. It's like a whiteboard calendar, and it just has 1 month at a time. So every single day I'm seeing the whole month in advance. I have my trips on there. I have podcast interviews on there. I have some of the most important things, and then also my focus and my goals for that month. So if my focus and goals for that month is something like, say, jiu-jitsu, then I'm looking at the calendar ahead of time and I'm plugging in exactly when and which classes I'm going to on which days. And when I'm traveling, I already know how I'm readjusting my schedule that week and how I'm still getting those number of classes in. So what I really recommend is just focusing on one major thing each month. So when it comes to even your business, figure out, okay, yes, look at the long-term goal. Where do you want to be at the end of 2022? And then you have to reverse engineer it and figure out what it is that you need to be doing on a monthly basis, on a daily basis in order to reach that goal. So that way you can set those targets. If you don't have daily action attached to where you want to be at the end of the year, you will not get there. Like, you simply will not get there. So you really have to identify, what is this overarching goal? What is it that I need to do on a monthly basis? What is it that I need to do on a weekly basis? And what can I do today? If you have a goal of starting a podcast, maybe today you need to research equipment for a podcast, and that's your task for the day. So research the equipment, get your list of top 3, suggestions, and then get the links ready, right? And maybe you purchase. Maybe you spend the hour that you had allocated on that, and then you have to go back to work and you didn't get anything done. Don't believe that lie. You did get something done. There's so many people that because they didn't have this like tangible result, they feel like a failure. They feel like they're not making progress. They feel like that was such a waste of time. That's not true. You were doing your due diligence. You were doing your research, and it's such a necessary and important part of you having the number one podcast in the world. Right? You can never have the number one podcast in the world if you didn't take time years ago to research which equipment you need to have, right? So identify those daily actions. And then what I do too is all throughout the month, let's say that the first week of January goes by, I'm already looking at the last 3 weeks and I'm like, okay, the first week of January, what did I say I was going to do? Did that match up with what I said or what I actually did? Like, did my words and actions, did they align? Did they match up? And what can I do this week to be a little bit better? The truth is, maybe I freaking crushed it last week and I'm like, hell yes, let's catch this momentum. Let's go again. And right now I look at the whole week in advance. If that makes you feel overwhelmed, which sometimes it could, don't even look at that. Look at just the one day that you're on. And for that one day, how can you be and practice excellence today and figure out what that looks like for you? My brand, Evolve with Emily, Evolve X, it's all about evolving into excellence. And so the way that you do that is by practicing excellence day in and day out. Every single day, you have to practice what it looks like to be excellent in your life. And here's a good way to do that. Before you are finished with something, let's say that you're turning in a project for work. Ask yourself, is this the most excellent product that I can put out? Before you finish a workout, before you finish a set, ask yourself, was that the most excellent version of me? And guys, yes, it's going to look different on every day. A day when you were feeling the way I feel today, which is like 10 of 10, your output is going to be your PR, your personal record, right? It's going to match up with like exactly who you are, what you were designed for, and that kind of thing. A day when you're struggling, a day when you're having a really hard mental health day, your health isn't in check, maybe you're battling a cold or something, your output's going to look different. So you need to ask yourself, just for today, is this my most excellent self? Can I do any better right now? And as long as you can answer, no, I cannot do any better, like this is my best, then that is what excellence is. Excellence is not when you just get something done. You complete the project. There's a lot of people that can complete a project, but who can do it with everything that they have and give 100% every single time? You have to give your 100%. When you do that, your work output will be so different. So I want to ask you guys today, what is your current standard of living? Maybe recently you have allowed yourself more flexibility, more room to rest and recharge, and that's great. But it's time to recalibrate, and it's time to ask yourself, what are the standards that you want to hold yourself to, your life, your relationships, your friendships, your business, and start operating from that place yourself. Before anything else in your life can change, your business, your employees, your relationships, whatever it is, you first have to embody that change. You lead the way the best by leading the way yourself. You have to lead the way so that other people can see what it's like. They can see a different way of living and what that produces in your life. If you ever want to know how somebody is operating in their life, look at the fruit of their life. Look at their relationships, at their businesses, at everything in their life that is tangible and real that you can see. And oftentimes you can see what they're doing behind the closed doors. Somebody that is taking care of themselves mentally, physically, spiritually, they're really on top of everything. They seek to live by a standard of excellence that will be visible in their life. It will be visible in their actions. It will be visible in their relationships and every kind of way. So I want to ask you guys, what kind of year do you want to have in 2022? At the end of 2022, do you want to let another year go by with ideas and thoughts inside of your head? Of like, I could have done this, but this happened, right? Like excuse after excuse after excuse. Listen, I think if you're here and you're listening, you probably don't give into excuses, because my community, we don't do that here. By now, you guys either felt so uncomfortable that you left, or the only people that are here are the ones that have that victor mentality, that I will figure it out mentality. The victor mentality is also about accepting personal responsibility when you don't, when you fall short. Right? So when you don't reach your goal, when you are falling short, when you produce a product or an outcome that is less than your best, it's not self-judgment, it's not shame, but it is taking full responsibility and ownership of the fact that I can and I will do better, and I'm going to do the right thing in order to create a better result. I'm going to step up, I'm going to level the hell up, call myself out on my own shit, and I'm going to produce what I know that I can produce. So that's kind of my recap for 2021. That is what I'm doing going into 2022. You guys, I'm so freaking stoked for this year. You have no idea. I feel like last year was a lot of pruning all the things in my life that didn't belong, right? It started with the health issues. It started with the trauma and the therapy and all the things that I had to do to get those things out of my heart and mind and soul. And this year, I feel so free. I feel free from the inside out, and just excited to live life and excited to really execute on everything. And if the audio just changed, oh, it's still going. Sorry, I just got a notification that the audio ran out, but I don't think that it did. So excuse all of that. Anyways, I'm going to end the podcast here. It's the first Monday of the year. I hope that you guys are having a great day. I hope that you are off to a great start. And I invite you guys to join in on one of my communities, my EvolveX community. We have an entry-level mentorship where right now we're doing 2 calls every single month, and it's just group mentorship calls. So we get on there. Sometimes we'll do something like a hot seat where someone comes in and shares what they're experiencing, whether it's business or, creative ideas or relationships or spiritual, struggles, whatever it is. And then everyone in the group will give their advice and their insight and their perspective on it. And it's a pretty cool thing. Other times I'll do a topic talk where I come in and I coach and I mentor you guys on something. We'll do a Q&A. We'll do an open conversation. It's just different every time. And the community is incredible. And the people that are in that are really seeking to be the best versions of themselves. It's only, I believe, $14.99 a month. So if you want to skip a coffee or two and instead invest into yourself and come join us for an incredible year of personal growth, we would love to have you. That link will be down below. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, if you got anything out of it, do me a favor and tag the podcast page, Evolve with Emily Podcast, on your stories. Let us know what your takeaways were and share it with a friend. That's the only way that the podcast grows at this point. So thank you guys ahead of time if you choose to share and spread the message. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.